Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Speak Only the Truth When in Front of Humans, written by Farwich4275. I glared at the Yakandi ambassador with the most deathly expression that I could. I looked him right in the eye. He, of course, being a diplomat, glared right back. He had no idea just how dangerous his new position was. He grunted at me.
"There is a reason for this conduct," he barked. "I do not want to be late."
"I am here to provide you a dire warning, Yakandian. As dire and sincere warning you may regard as insane, but it's something we all must know if we are ever to be a part of this confederacy, and the benefits it brings," I said plainly.
"Do not threaten me, Saranian. I have the largest army in the galaxy. There is a reason we were—"
"I do not care about your armies," I bellowed loudly and closed the distance too fast for him to react. "This is not a threat. It is a dire warning. This will be your first council meeting, the official welcoming ceremony. As a consequence, the Terran Federation will be there to greet you along with the rest of the Confederacy." He looked at me nervously. I was right up in his face.
Are they the enforcers or the secret police or something?" he asked.
"No. They are small ape creatures with no natural weaponry, hailing from a Class 2 Deathworld called Earth. They have no real talents beyond the rest of the galaxy and represent the physical embodiment of the concept of average. They are nothing special," I stated, monotone, almost robotically.
"That doesn't sound dangerous. A Class 2, psh, weakly from a Class 7 Deathworld."
I scoffed and stood back. Psh. That's what the Mbakai said before their ambassador vomited out his own heart when talking to a human. That's what the Juhai said shortly before one of their ambassadors started attempting to tear out his own spine. That's what the Combinants once said before their entire face was vanished from the galaxy in the worst and messiest mass suicide in recorded history. Sure, keep your ego. It'll hasten your death, I barked at him.
"What are you implying? What act of war are these threats?" he said.
I rapidly approached him again and glared him uncomfortably close. "I shall make this simple. I like you, Yakandian. You are a great race with a great empire, and I shall be looking forward to an excellent partnership. That is why I must warn you. We in the galaxy have one simple, universal rule. Do not lie when in the presence of a human," I said plainly, looking directly into his soul. The delegation shared concerned, confused glances. An awkward moment of silence followed until eventually one of the delegates raised his hand like a child in a school classroom. Why? "Do you believe in magic, Counselor?" I asked.
"Stupid nonsense," he snapped back.
"Well, I guess you are a lost cause then. Maybe when you are more open to talks after your first medical recess. See you soon," I said with a sly grin and headed to the main chamber. The introduction ceremony was jubilant and filled with the traditional genital-sucking congratulations and bloviated boisterousness. 4 ambassadors from our new arrivals in their council pod, waiting for the chance to speak. The speeches for the introduction were bloviating, in the way that politicians usually do. But they were, however, somewhere bladder than usual. During this process, I looked into the audience chambers and used my micro-camera drone to look about. I understood why the speech was so bland and neutral. There were at least 27 humans in the room now, each from their own factions or as mercenaries with alien ambassadors. I chuckled and made sure the medical team was ready and waiting for the inevitable. They indeed were, but were rather confused as to why. The Yakandian ambassador and his cohort stood from their seats as they were introduced by the speaker. They pressed buttons and their council pod hovered into an arena and began speaking. The speech began. A predictable one filled with military jargon, buzzwords, and the usual friendly but "we are better than you" nonsense that all of them, yes, even myself, used when first starting out. The rest of the council rolled eyes and twitched eye stalks, simply wandering about inside their own head while pretending to pay attention until the speech was done. Then the first cough, the sound of Ambassador literally choking on his own words as my warning predictably came true. I looked at the crowd. I saw most ambassadors and security staff give concerned glances, but some of the faces in the crowd were smiling, chuckling to themselves and thinking what to do as they realized what was going on. The Yakandian ambassador excused himself and resumed his speech. I still have no idea what he said. I wasn't paying attention to it, just gauging the crowd's reaction. The speech continued, and again the coughing resumed as well, but this time he coughed so badly he spat some blood on his console. He looked at the result and gasped for breath. I could see the fear in his eyes. He looked over at me. I smiled at him, leaned forward, and spoke into my own broadcaster. Calling for a short recess following an apparent medical emergency. Recall Pod 52, medical team on standby, I said, my words heard by all present.
Recess 20 minutes,
the Chamberlain bellowed and slammed his gavel, returning to his own pod to tend to matters himself. The meeting quickly adjourned, and the pod with the Ugandan ambassador automatically retreated to its charging station. I, wearing the smuggest smile possible, left my pod and headed to the corridor where the action was taking place. There the ambassador was being checked over by the medical team that I had earmarked for the situation, and almost immediately a point of suspicion was cast on me. I simply let it continue, knowing full well that we were still on a security feed, and the entire delegation, humans included, was still watching. The ambassador spotted me, charged at me, and slammed me against the wall, lifting me off the ground. You did this! What poison did you use on me? He barked. I was sore for certain, but I simply smiled and waited for the effect to hit again.
It was you who poisoned me. I could feel as though my own body was attempting to bomb out my own aunt. What kind of evil chemical nonsense are you?
He could not continue and coughed, retching as his body convulsed in agony, dropping me from the surge in the pain and his violet-colored blood splattering against the wall. The medics immediately tended to him, forcing him to stay down and give him painkillers and other such things. It was almost amusing. Almost. I had to admit I quite liked the Ugandians and hoped they would stick around. I needed to teach him this lesson quickly. Are you finished? Or are you going to listen? I said, and quietly disabled the camera feed for this particular area, telling the crowd that it was for community standards. This was, after all, publicly broadcasted. We didn't want us little ones becoming nervous now, did we?
What's going on? He said, retching from pain.
Good, you are listening. Here is our number one rule. When in the presence of a human, speak only the truth, or you will be condemned to speak only silence. I said simply, and watched the few around me glare at me quizzically.
Why? I don't understand.
Then let me explain. Did you notice something odd about the Chamberlain's speech? How unusually bland it was. How it was so vague and misdirecting? Did you notice how odd it was for a political speech to be so empty? Shallow even. Not platitudes, but more redirections. Did you notice that? I asked. He took a moment to breathe and looked at me.
Well, yes, actually. I did find it rather odd.
That's the human's curse. The magic I spoke of. Why you're here on the ground, writhing in agony like your heart is tempted to leap out of your own skull. Do not lie in front of humans. That's the curse, I said. He attempted to ask again, opening his mouth to question. Do not speak. I will tell you how and why momentarily. I just need your absolute word that you will follow that rule, because if you lie again, that'll be the last breath you take. It's always 3 times. 1 little cough to say stop it, 2nd cough to warn you that you're crossing the line, 3rd cough to cause enough pain to tell you to shut up. The 4th one will be your last breath. Say it. Promise. Follow the rule. Do not lie in front of humans, I commanded, speaking with more authority on the matter than I thought I could muster. He took some deep breaths and considered the pain in his body.
I will not lie in front of humans,
he said. Good. Not just pretty words, I can guarantee that. The voidish feeling where your organs should be is probably a guarantee for that too. Now, we can talk plainly. The humans won't know, and I would prefer they remain willingly ignorant of their capability. Understand? I asked. He simply nodded, accepting a drink from the medics. Here is the theory that we know. At least, as far as we think we know, based on what we can find. Way back in the early days of human space exploration, something called the 21st century humanity was in a state of turmoil. Nearly every city-state was in a state of civil unrest in some way or form. Politicians back in those days were nothing short of sub-sapient scum, no matter what side they were on. Lies were rampant, and there was just so much stupid that the entire planet teetered on the brink of civilizational collapse. Then one day, during the 4th decade of the 24th century, the 40s as they called it, somehow, some way, by someone we genuinely don't know, a magic curse was placed on the entire species, I said. He looked at me, blinked, staring like I was a madman explaining how the universe was shaped like a toilet or something. This curse effectively made it lethal to lie, too often, for too long. One day, millions of politicians began vomiting up their own hearts or ejecting blood from every orifice before dropping dead. The curse spread to religious leaders, then activist groups, then the common man. In the first week of the curse being active, 1 billion humans, a full 1/8 of the planet's population at the time, died from lying too much. The only reason it stopped was because a leader from a cult or organization responsible for casting the curse in the first place appeared on television and basically told them what was going on. Fatalities continued, of course, but nowhere near as bad as the first week. The humans actually thought that it was a bioweapon at first. I explained calmly, even though I knew every word was insane, but true.
A magical curse? Seriously?
Well, how else can it be explained? The priest responsible for explaining the situation didn't show himself. He just said, them's the rules and them's the thing. And he didn't cough out his own lungs. So there you go. How can one explain it any way except some kind of magic or supernatural force? Never sets of biohazard equipment, no matter the capability. We have tested this so many times. It always happens. If a human hears you speak a lie, you start the process of your soul becoming so disgusted with the fact that you told an untruth that it begins forcibly removing its mortal chains, to its own detriment. At least, that's the best we can tell. The Combinants learned that. The Imbakai learned that fact as well. I learned that, and I nearly died during my first speech too. You can still see the blood and smears on my seat, I said flatly, looking at him with worry. He leaned against the wall and had more water to drink. He thought about it.
Starting to make sense, really. I've seen some reports about humans in Terran Confederacy. Starting to understand why I thought they were so outlandish. So, let me get this right. A faction of humans became so angry at the state of the world, and they cast a curse of some kind. Well, we don't know. And this magic curse causes them to tell only the truth, or they'll die horribly.
That's pretty much it. At least as far as we know. I've mused on this carefully through the years, with actual humans present with no consequences beside the human raising an eyebrow and wishing he could speak our language. It ignores culture and language borders, can speak in anything if you lie. The result is the same. So, it seems that it is best if only explanation we have. We can't think of anything else except the literal actions of a divine entity, and we really don't want to think about that, I replied.
Okay, tell me what happened to those who failed to adhere to this unwritten rule.
His breathing and speech were returning to normal. The Combinants was the largest religious faction in the galaxy once. Humans challenged them to a debate when the priests came calling to spread their faith and collect tithes from unbelievers. The debate was a disaster, and didn't last more than an hour before the great Tsar began convulsing and his spine ripped itself out. Then they blamed the human for assassination. Accusers likewise suffered bloody and painful deaths. The Combinants attempted more debates and tried collecting more tithes. Each encounter ended the same. Humans begging them to go away for fear of lives lost. And the zealots effectively condemned themselves to an early grave. The death toll was worse than the Great Plague of the Lost Era, I said.
That explains why humans have no real religious doctrine, choosing silent faith instead. They don't know the answer, and physically can't preach their opinion for fear of death. God, the misery they must be in, to not know and not be able to ask for fear of death, he said.
Indeed. Humans suffer more than we could know by their own rules, cast due to their own sins. It's why they are at the top of the food chain, not due to military strength or diplomatic prowess, but due to the fact that despite this, they still carry on looking for answers, I remarked plainly. Everyone in the vicinity shared glances, some of shame, others of pride or shared concern.
That explains why their military strength is public knowledge. They have to display it, because if we ask, they have to say. So they just tell it like it is. So, how did the Imbakai lose their spines?
He was stable now. The effect had worn off, and he was now out of the danger zone. Slavers. The Imbakai were slavers. Humans hate slavery and condemned it. When the Imbakai attempted a council seat, the humans protested. This led to a debate, and the Imbakai lost. That debate is why not only slavery is illegal, but also why the Imbakai are no longer slavers. They're scared not only of human military action. The humans also won the debate. They were very articulate about the concept. The Imbakai were not. And several ambassadors died from the arguments they posed, I said smugly.
Well, understandable. Slavery is abhorrent, I'll give them that. Seems the universe grace too. But what about the Juhai?
The Juhai attempted covert operations, while without a declaration against the humans. When humanity found out about their actions, the humans challenged them. The Juhai emperors and commanders vehemently denied the accusations. The throne room that was once their command center now serves as a memorial site for their entire leadership caste when a curse hit them. I can still hear the cracking of bones. To this day, I can't stand snapping noises, I said with a disgusted shudder. Everyone who was there and saw what happened likewise shuddered alongside me. Each of us tipped a hat or article of clothing in memoriam.
Is there any way to really negotiate with the humans without risking death? He asked.
No. Just be honest. They like it when people are honest anyway. There are loopholes. Serious lies like, we aren't going to invade you when you are going to do that. We'll get you killed. Small lies like, no, you don't look fat in that dress, or Santa will be coming soon, go to bed. Or you get no presents, or no, there isn't a giant spider on your head, you'll be fine. Or lies like, no, your arm isn't missing, it's right here. You'll learn the nuances soon enough. Humans aren't as complex as they seem once you understand their behavioral patterns. Small things to prevent panic or keep children under control, myths and folktales. So long as what you are saying is meant to be helpful, or at least in some variant of the truth behind it, will not be punished. Serious stuff that cause harm and break empires, that's the bad kind of lies. That kind of thing.
So technically, I can lie to the humans, just can't lie about things that could cause serious damage. Like, no, there isn't a fire in the building to stop someone from panicking and making a fire worse, he asked.
Exactly. See? You learn fast. When not in the presence of humans, lie as much as you like, about whatever you like. Hell, it's become a game to most council member states to have private lying conventions just to get it all out of our systems. It's kind of funny, to be frank. Discussions for another day. It only counts when a human is present, I said, helping him back to his feet.
Thank you. I think I'm ready to go back in there and finish this. I have to relay the information to the Emperor before humans get too closer. This whole thing explains why human market prices are so competitive. They can't afford to be scummy about it. So much about a species is making more sense. And the more I know, the more I feel sorry for them.
He straightened himself out and used pockets and patches of leather to hide the blood on his uniform. It is also why the galaxy at large holds such great reverence for humanity as a whole. For them to hold this great burden upon their shoulders is something that takes immeasurable resolve. That's why there are so few humans out of their own space. It's so they don't hurt us more than they already do, but we insist they join aliens in the galaxy at large for reasons that should be obvious, I said with a sly, knowing smirk.
He blinked and likewise managed a small smirk. Law enforcement. Simply being in the room, we know if a criminal is lying. If we are careful, we can get confessions or locations of evidence too easily. Military. Put a human in presence of a prisoner with intel on the military target and watch them squirm. So much potential. I like it.
I knew you would. Now, come. It is time for your swearing in to resume. Let us hope that you are as good as an ambassador as I know you are, and see if you can give a rousing speech off the cuff.
End of story.
I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.